Did we both wink? Did you wink?
I winked. Hey guys, my name's Kirsten.
And I'm Riley. We drink a lot of coffee.
We drink a lot of coffee.
And we tend to chat a lot.
Yeah. And every time we do, just things. we talk about everything, but one thing we've both really been talking about right now because of like the current season that we're going through is dating and specifically singleness. How do you deal with that?
Like with singleness?
With singleness, just like what does that mean to you?
Like, I don't know if you've also ever felt like you're in this season where you feel so alone and isolated, but that's kind of like what happened when I first moved here, because I moved from New Zealand to America, and I pretty much didn't know anyone in the entire state. So it was really hard, and I was living in this tiny house, literally a tiny house. It was 200 square feet, and I struggled because I'm such an extrovert, and I came from such a great community back in New Zealand. And I just remember sitting on the end of my bed and just crying and being like, I'm so lonely, I'm in such a wilderness season, like, I'm so single.
Yeah.
And I had to realize that this, who I am, this body, this mind, this soul, is enough.
That's good.
You know, we're so often seeking for, like, the one. But you actually need to look in the mirror and look a little closer because the one is you.
Yeah.
And then once you realize that, it just makes your season of singleness or your season of isolation a lot easier. And it's hard because it's taken me so long to come to that point of realizing, like, I am enough, that I don't need other people. Like, other people make my life way greater.
Yeah, there's like a really great metaphor that I've heard before of like a bucket, and if the bucket has holes in it, it doesn't matter how great the water is that you're putting in it, like it's gonna eventually drain out. And I think so often we're looking for that water, the boyfriend that we want or the husband that we want, and we have holes, and that relationship's not going to be sustainable if there's holes, because it's just eventually going to seep out. And so you need to work on patching up those holes and then be like, okay, I'm complete and whole and I'm enough, I'm sustained on my own, and then like anything additional that comes into that is going to be good.
We were talking about like what is the goal of singleness, and I believe it's to become like a self-sustainable vessel of love. Become enough that you don't need that guy to compliment you on how cute you look, or you don't need your mother to say yes to the situation that you're about to take. Like, yes, all those things help, but you on your own are enough. And I think that's so important to come to discover and learn. I remember calling my mom and I was like, Mom, I have an addiction. And my mom's like, what? And I'm like, I'm a male attention addict. Because I was like really unhealthily relying on these amazing men to feed my soul because I wasn't feeding my soul. And I should have been the one who was telling myself, you're great, you're amazing. Something that's really important is our thoughts are so powerful. And like in that moment, I was like not really loving myself well in my thoughts. So I was relying on these men that I was going on dates with to like feed my soul, and instead of feeding myself with my own self-love, is like your thoughts are so powerful. I sometimes think the way I help myself like control and like really guide my thoughts to a certain healthy mindset is I'll think like, what if I took my thoughts and I wrote them down? What would someone think? Like if I wrote down my thoughts and I gave them to you, would you be proud or would you not be proud of my thoughts?
Right.
Or like in other words, if I said these things that I'm thinking in my head to you, like as one of my best friends, like what would you think?
Right.
You
and
like
I think
so often it wouldn't be good.
Yeah, like so often, that's so good, because there's so many times where like I'm so critical on myself, literally like an hour later in a position where my friend is maybe needing some encouragement, and like I'm like, no, like you're crazy, what are you talking about? Why can't I say that to myself? And I think having that awareness, because so many times we have this track playing of like, you're not good enough, you're not skinny enough, you're breaking out, what the heck, like just all these things that we tear apart, and we don't even realize it because it just comes this like soundtrack in the back of our head. And so when you journal about it and you write it down and you become really self-aware, it can help you just, awareness is the first step to anything, and then like where do you move from that? And I think for me, like that's a lot of what that season of singleness and loneliness was about, was just really like digging deep and being honest with myself.
And it's like, maybe you've heard of the experiment they did with plants. Have you heard about this one?
No.
So they had like two plants, and one plant, they've done this experiment multiple times, and one plant, they spoke like really negative words over the plant, and they were like, you suck, you're horrible. And then the other plant, they were like, you're amazing, you're beautiful. The plant that got the negative words died. This plant with the positive words, thrived.
That's
It's
amazing.
like, and even like right now I have like tons of plants in my room and they're thriving because
you
I
speak words every morning. You're so beautiful.
I love you.
It's good practice for parenting, I guess.
Yeah, my little plant babies. But like that just shows, that's such a great analogy of like, if you speak these positive words over yourself in your head, like think about it, like your words are water for your soul.
Yeah.
What kind of water are you giving? Is it like pure, clean, healthy water, or is it like water that has dirt and like heroin or like drugs or like whatever? Like what is the thoughts? What kind of water is it providing for your heart? Because like even if you think about it, like the way your body's mind, like this is like these are your thoughts and this is like your heart. It's like they sync through to each other. We're completely flawed human beings that we hope that there's something, even if it's just one sentence that you took out of what we were saying and something that you can walk away with. We constantly communicate in analogies. And so I hope that even one analogy is something that you took away from all of this.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We know your time is precious.
Yeah.
And you spent it with us, so we
really appreciate
you. Bye.
In history, she reminds me of the summertime way back in 2003. Hey, I've been chilling on the coast with my